so much everyone for joining this session. After 5 successful sessions in the month of July, we are really excited to start with the next set of sessions. We are going to organize 4 more sessions over the next 4 weekends. For those of you who are attending for the first time, I would like to introduce you to the entire knowledge series. This knowledge series is the brainchild of Dr. Ahmed Al-Zubaidi from GCC and Dr. Apoorva Ranjan Sharma, co-founder and president of Venture Catalyst. Dr. Ahmed and his friends are doing phenomenal work to educate investors and friends from the Middle East and Eastern Africa region about the startup investment. This knowledge series is a crucial effort by Dr. Ahmed and his friends to invite their colleagues, partners, friends, and family. Each session covers important topics about startup investments. During the last 4 sessions, we had a remarkable lineup of speakers. We discussed key building blocks of the startup ecosystem, global investment landscape, experiences of successful founders, and creation of a unicorn startup. Today, we are hosting the 6th session. We're inviting successful entrepreneurs to speak with our investor community to share their experience and secrets to identify next unicorn opportunities. Interestingly, today's session is a fireside chat with Dr. Apoorva Ranjan Sharma. For today's session, we have invited one of our successful portfolio startup founders, Mr. Ashutosh Valani from Beardo, to share his experience and journey with us. I welcome all of you, and here we begin today's session with an introduction about Dr. Apoorva Ranjan Sharma. Dr. Apoorva Ranjan Sharma is the co-founder and president of Venture Catalyst. Under his leadership, Venture Catalyst has become world's 7th most active incubator and early stage investor. It has invested in over 100 startups, built an ecosystem of 4,500 plus angel investors across 36 cities in India and outside. Dr. Sharma is a PhD in incubation from India, acclaimed globally. He holds an MBA, BTech from reputed institutions and diploma in mentoring studies from UC Berkeley. Dr. Sharma has been mentoring and investing in startups since 2002. He has established more than 12 incubators in India. Dr. Sharma has mentored and invested in more than 100 startups. He has an eye for identifying unicorns at a very early stage. In 2012, with Venture Nursery, Dr. Sharma invested in Oyo Rooms as the first investor and mentor. Today, Oyo Rooms has become one of the most valued startups globally with a valuation of over $10 billion. In 2017, with Venture Catalyst, he invested in Beardo as the first investor and mentor. Today, Beardo has become India's fastest growing men's grooming brand, successfully acquired by Marico Limited. His other successful portfolio includes BharatPe, valued at $500 million, Innovate, acquired by Oyo Rooms, Find, invested by Google and acquired by Reliance Industries, Super Daily, acquired by Swiggy, and 30 plus more multi-bagger successful exits. In 2017, 18, and 19, Dr. Sharma was ranked amongst the top 10 most active angel investors in India by Economic Times. I take this opportunity to invite Dr. Apoorva Ranjan Sharma, who's also known as the founding father of startup ecosystem in India. Today, we welcome him for this chat. Welcome, Dr. Sharma, for the session today.
Thank you, Ravi. Thank you for a warm introduction. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. I would now like to take this opportunity to invite the guest for the day, Mr. Ashutosh Valani. Ashutosh is co-founder of Beardo. Beardo is India's leading men's grooming brand. Ashutosh is a graduate of Brunel University, London. In 2015, Ashutosh, along with his college mate Priyank, launched Beardo. He was an early spotter of a trend that has become a big vertical within the personal care space, male grooming, with a specific focus on nurturing beards. I'm sure people who have beards, you understand it can be difficult task to manage your beard and your personal care, and that is where Beardo comes and play a very, very crucial. Identifying a gap in the online retail market, Beardo launched its first products, a unique beard oil and wash in 2015. Buoyed by the success, Ashutosh introduced more products and expanded to offline stores and salons across India. It received investment from Venture Capital in 2017 and has since roped in Bollywood's leading actors such as Sunil Shetty and Shahid Kapoor as brand ambassadors for Beardo. Beardo's profits have grown over 300% in the past 2 years. In July 2020, amidst the pandemic and lockdown across India, Marico Limited, A $6 billion Indian FMCG giant acquired Beardo. Today, Ashutosh has become an iconic name among leading consumer product startups in India. We are all excited to hear this wonderful story. Here, I welcome Ashutosh Valani, co-founder Beardo, for this wonderful chat. Dr. Apoorva Ranjan Sharma, I would request you to kindly take the fireside chat ahead.
Thank you for having me. Thank you, Apoorva Ranjan sir, to be here, and thank you everybody who is listening to the chat today.
Thank you, Ravi. Thank you, Ashutosh, first of all, for taking out time to share your views with us today. You are really an icon today for millions of entrepreneurs of India who come from non-tech companies. And I can definitely vouch that the way you have grown Beardo, especially in FMCG industry. This is something which nobody would have done, right? So I can really vouch the way you have built this company is amazing. We have seen your journey from scratch to becoming an icon of India. So Ashutosh, my first question, because I know you very well, but most of the millions of the entrepreneurs and millions of the many of the investors who are looking to you are from Middle East, so they may not know. So when you came to me and met me, we met in 2017. There were at least 10 brands who were into female grooming. I remember a lot of brands were there. And you came to me and said, Dr. Apoorva, I want to do a male grooming brand. How this idea suddenly from out of box, nobody, not such a large brands were not even thinking about it. How did this idea came into your mind to focus on male grooming? What excited, what was this, which Eureka moment of your life? So like to hear from you, please.
No, sir. First of all, thank you for the kind words of introduction that you've just given. Really humbles me up and really appreciate it. So to answer your question, I think I'll have to go back a little in time to the time when we started to deal online with our own portal back in 2010, which was called AajKiItem.com. So what we used to do was we used to import goods from China, from Taiwan. We used to trade goods from Bombay and Delhi, bring it to our warehouse, and then sell it on our website called Aaj Ki Item. So which was like a one day, one deal. And Indians love deals, right? So we used to bring them the best deals in multiple categories. May it be furniture, may it be electronics, may it be clothing, lifestyle, anything. Slowly, in 2012-13, we saw that there were bigger giants who had raised a lot of money into the e-com market here in India, namely Snapdeal, Flipkart, Amazon, Let's Buy, and a lot more. So that's when we decided that we could probably copy this particular module of ours and then start selling the same goods and same deals on all these portals, because they have a much vaster reach and much wider reach. So in 2013, we started trading all of these goods only from our website to all of these websites. By the time it was 2014 and in 2015 starting, we were dealing in 13 different categories. We became one of the biggest deal vendors online here in India. And that's when we forayed into grooming as a master category. When I say grooming, we were also dealing into women, we were also dealing into color cosmetics, we were dealing into men's, deos and everything. That's when we realized that there's so much to offer for women, but there was nothing for men. And I used to keep a beard back then, and I still do now. It's a lighter one because of the pandemic, staying back home, a longer hair and a shorter beard at the moment. But back then, a lot of people aspired to keep beard, but there was nothing to clean it or to keep it groomed. That's when we realized that now is the time where if we can change the gear and bring something for men, speak to men in their own language, I think we can, fill this gap, or create a market which is non-existent at the moment. And the Eureka moment, like you said, was in December 2015, when we decided that now it is enough is enough. We have to stop all of the trading and we have to now start grooming the men of India. And that's how the name Beardo came into existence, because beard products were going to be our first introductory products. And hence the name Beardo, with our first couple of products being beard oil and beard washes.
Great. So I remember you telling me that, while most of the brand wants women to look beautiful, I want you to look handsome. I remember your lines. So with that, you started that company, I remember. Ashutosh, you basically come from a tier 2 cities, while most of the big startups, they come from Delhi, Mumbai, tier 1 cities of India. You came from Ahmedabad, which is of course, business town, but it brings its own challenges. From coming from Ahmedabad, setting up one of the biggest FMCG male grooming brand of India, and become an icon of lot of entrepreneurs, inspiration for so many entrepreneurs. I remember recently when you exited, even the biggest Mr. Vijay Shekhar Sharma also wrote that this is the exit of India, made in India exit. So coming in the attention of so many big guys, how do you feel, and what were the challenges which you faced, in the early years when you were setting up the brand called Beardo?
Sure. So to answer the first part of the question, I feel ecstatic. It is unreal, and we are still. It feels like a dream for us to, having created a brand and selling and actually getting exit within a span of 3 to 4 years. But to answer your question, I think vision is not limited by geography. It does not really matter where you're located, smaller cities, bigger cities. It is just that if you are clear with your vision and what you want to do, I think the right person finds the right path for it to achieve its goal, right? So that's what we feel. So we never move to a bigger city because we feel that Ahmedabad, even though being a mega city, tier 2, it has all the resources. It is upon the founder, the promoter, to actually make the best use of the location that he or she is in. And that's why we never really thought of us being in Bombay or Delhi or even Bangalore. We thought that mm, there are a lot of bigger names like, Zydus, like Intas, like Adanis, who actually come from Ahmedabad, right? So Ahmedabad as a city has never stopped them being, one of the biggest names in India. So why should it be for us, right? And hence, I think Ahmedabad, we still love the city and we would like to do more and more from here. To answer your second part of the question is the hurdles, the struggles. Let me tell you, educating consumers in India is one of by far the most difficult tasks that we have really come across, because there are so many sectors, and the whole country is divided into so many regions, and to reach all of those regions at the same time with the same language and trying to reach and educate those people is in itself a challenge. So I think that was the challenge that we took upon ourselves, was to make sure that we reach the audience at the right time at a faster pace, using digital as one of the tools, or you may call it a weapon, to make sure that we reach the maximum amount of people, the maximum amount of target audience in the most minimum amount of time. And I think that is how we would define we actually overcame that hurdle.
See, there are category leaders, Ashutosh, and you are a category creator. At that time, 2016, I remember, there was very few investors who used to think of a startup in FMCG. In startup means in India in 2016 mean technology startups. At that stage, 2016, coming from a tier 2 city and creating a category, how difficult it was for you to convince the investors and your team members to join you, because this is something FMCG startups was a very new concept at that time. I remember there was nobody ready to invest in FMCG. How did you convince? Because I remember you closed your investment in a very quick time, 15 days, right? So, and what were the challenges you were facing in convincing the investors? Can you share some lights on that, Ashutosh? You remember your 2017 time?
Sure. I think in 2016, when we were now thriving and growing and trying to make our name for ourselves, we started approaching all the institutional investors, because we thought once we reach that 30-40 lakh rupee mark a month selling online, we thought that this would be the time to go and raise good chunk of money and then probably spread into the offline part of it, because India's offline distribution in FMCG was 94% back in the day. So we had to make sure that we were also present offline. So we started going. I thought it would be easy, where we would be able to, meet all the investors, probably just tell them our story, tell them where India is when it comes to grooming. And India grooming was only two major segments. One was either shaving, and the other was either fragrance and deos. There was nothing else for men, which was very prominent, right? Face washes and everything was there, but it was all massy. There was no swag to it. There was no communication language. There was no ownership of somebody using that particular product, right? So there was no such brand per se which people would be proud to own. And that's when we realized that this was something that we really wanted to go for. And if we were able to achieve it, I think we would have made a mark in the Indian FMCG male grooming industry. But that was a thought process. That was like an Excel sheet. When you create an Excel sheet for a business, versus when you come to the practicality of it, you just keep sweating on the streets, right? So we started taking appointments with VCs. We met almost 40 venture capitalists in a span of 90 days. Bangalore, Delhi, Bombay, Indore, Ahmedabad, Surat, you name it, we were there. And finally, we were on the verge of giving up going to the VCs. And we thought, you know what, we would just probably raise a loan from the bank, because we were ultimately doing business which was earning money. So we were never losing money. So we thought that if VCs are not ready to back us up, we might as well just, speak to people who own salon chains. So at the time, finally, there was a call from a salon chain that came to us, that was from Chennai. So we went to Chennai and we pitched our idea. The owner really loved us, but he said he himself was looking for funding. There you go. We got stuck. Now what do we do? And suddenly a friend of ours, a common friend Suraj, who was also at the same time raising some money from VCATs, told me that why don't you speak to Dr. Apoorva Ranjan Sharma? I think he's a nice person and he would understand, because he has supported people where people really nobody used to believe in those ideas, like Oyo or like all the other ideas that you have really believed in the past. So I said, okay, let's give it a try. Probably one last try before we shift our focus from raising from VCs to going to banks. And you called me. I remember you told me kal aa jao. You come tomorrow morning. So I took a direct flight from Chennai to Bombay. I pitched, and there it was. It was the moment where everybody started understanding of what we are trying to do, and there was no doubt, because most of the questions came in. Dadi ka tel kaun lega? Question number one used to come into people's mind. How big is the market? Where is the data to back what you are saying? If you do razors, we will fund you. So those questions started going out, and the next question was, okay, boss, how do you create a brand? What are the products you want to do? What are the solutions that you really want to offer to the consumers of India that they really want? And I think that's what was different in VCATs than all the other VCs that we had faced earlier. And as you know, rest is history. VCATs came on board, they gave us our support, and here we are.
So I remember, one of the triggers, because this is important, one of the triggers for the investors was how this company is multiplying revenue every month. And that was a mesmerizing thing. Because most of the online brands, they used to bleed. And while on that side, you are growing every month, and gross margins were maintained. So that was one of the trigger, I remember. And did any Dollar Shady Club exit also help you? All these factors, would you like to bring into the notice of the investors? What really worked? What really triggered the investors at that time to invest $500,000 in you? Because I remember people like even Kunal Bahl invested in you. And, after that, there was a row of VCs and all those people. But I remember even Anupam Mittal and, all those people invested in you. So what really triggered their mind,
I think one of the you brought up a very good point, which I missed in the previous answer, was the Dollar Shave Club, right? Which was sold for $1 billion+ to Unilever World. And everybody was trying to compare. Acha, if this happened in US, why don't you also bring a subscription service? If this was the benchmark in US, then what is the benchmark in India? But I think VCs at the time probably were trying to compare two very different markets with each other. They were trying to compare a very matured market into this particular category versus a very, very immature or a very, very nascent market which was just going to come up. And I think that was one of the questions that I could not answer to, because the answer is, how do I compare a brand in US sold for $1 billion to a brand which is doing a 30 lakh or a 50 lakh rupee revenue a month? It is not a fair comparison in any sense. Also, the size of the market is so different and so small here that it is yet to grow. So I think that was a question that we often got asked, and I really started getting annoyed at the end of it that please don't do this, because India is a very different market. The consumers think very different. We come from very separate cultures. Our sense of using a product is very different than from West. But again, I think what goes well ends well for us. At the time, I think once we started clearing what we wanted to do, how we were growing, why we were growing, one of the points was we did not defocus from what everybody was trying to tell us. We were very clear with our vision, what we wanted to do, how much we wanted to sell. So to your first point of this question, it is very important to understand, if you want to sell online, you have to maintain a certain amount of gross profit. If you're just trying to get into the game to compete with the bigger guys, you will fail. You have to create your identity when you're trying to sell digitally, when you're trying to sell online. You have to make sure that the certain amount of gross margins and gross profits are maintained. Otherwise, it will eat you alive. Third is, while you're doing that, if you are trying to cover all the aspects, if you're trying to give the right product, if you're trying to maintain the right price point, if you're trying to communicate to your consumers and educate them at the same time, I think that's a win. And I think that's what we were doing, and that's why we were multiplying so fast.
You also, I remember, could engage and convince one of the Bollywood actors, Sunil Shetty, who is a mustache man, and also, he's an icon amongst a lot of Indian youngsters, to endorse your brand. Did it really help you, and how was his association with you? Because you are an FMCG company. How did it really help the emerging brand like Beardo at that time?
Sure. Okay, so that's a good question. So when we started speaking to WeCats, we simultaneously also started speaking to Sunil Shetty. How that came into existence was this of our understanding. In India, to create a separate identity from all the others, it is important to have a known face on the brand. If that happens, automatically the brand gets the right kind of recognition. People start remembering you by the known face that is attached to your brand. That's when we thought that if we want to become an aspirational brand, we have to bring an aspirational figure on board. And Sunil sir at the time was sporting a very macho beard. His age came into existence where we did not want it to be a boy's brand. We were very clear that we wanted to be a man's brand, who is a mature man with the right kind of beard, right kind of hair, right body. And Sunil Shetty fitted really perfectly with that kind of a description. We really reached out to his team, and his team was very warm to welcome us to meet with Sunil sir. We met, and I think we closed in less than 30 minutes, and he was on board. I think we were salesmen since day one, so I think we were able to sell it right. But I think he was also visionary to actually understand and come on board, really quickly. And as soon as we closed that, next month we were featuring to WeCats, and by the time he was on board, people started actually identifying us from that noise, because at the time there were a lot of brands which are coming in. There were smaller competitors who were coming in, but these people used to remember, acha, it was Sunil Shetty wali brand hai. So automatically that identification also started helping us to grow, further and faster. So, and also we chose Salof as our one of the main distribution points. All of the salon owners were the right kind of people who were fans of Sunil Shetty also at the time. So that marriage of the brand coming in, Sunil Shetty sir coming in, salon owners coming in, was a very, very good, amalgamation at the time. And I think all of these factors came beautifully together.
And I also remember, you suddenly after our investment, Ashutosh, there was a line of venture capital company behind you, and you within 6 months you had multiple term sheets and also a strategic investor. But you chose to go. I say you chose to go. I'm not saying we chose to go, because it was, we asked you, you want to go for a venture capital route or you want to go to a strategic investor route, right? So you chose to go for a strategic investor route, and became a history. But would like to know, at that time, well, so many large venture capital companies were ready, gave you the term sheet, and they were ready to back you. What made you decide to go with a strategic investor like Marico? Go to in a structured manner. What was going in your mind?
I think there are two things. Once Sunil Shetty came on board, once VCats came on board, once we started scaling much faster than we were before that, suddenly there was a lot of spotlight on the brand. And that time, VC started coming back in wherever we pitched. So two things came into mind for us. As soon as we raised round from VCats, I think 3 months down the line, we had multiple term sheets. We started talking to Marico. And this was a very difficult phase for us in terms of deciding what do we want for the brand, what do we want for India as a market, and where do we want this brand to go. See, because there are majorly only two routes for exit for any company. One is either you go to an IPO, or the second is you get acquired by a larger company. And here was a phase where there was a term sheet from one of the VCs that we had pitched earlier. Now, here's the thing. While you're into FMCG business and you're making profits, the question is, do you want to keep on raising rounds even when you're profitable and really deviate from doing business and growing aggressively to raising money now and then again and again? Or do you really want to settle with one partner who can not only give you money but also give you a lot of history of advice, a lot of practical sense of how the FMCG works? And I think that is when the divide came, and which was very clear. Point number one was, because we had been rejected by so many VCs, there was a black spot in our hearts. We never bring our personal grudges in business, but I think there was always a point that VCs comfort whenever they want to comfort themselves. So that's the kind of thought process that came into our mind, that they do not really want the entrepreneur or the promoter to really go with their vision, but with what they want to do. And that's when I realized that what if this happens again and again, right? While we are raising money, what if they ask us to actually deviate because they were funding us? That's when we spoke to Marico, and they made very clear to us that they don't really want to interfere with what we are doing. They are coming with us as an elder brother who would hold our hands whenever we need it. And that was very clear, and that was the point where we really decided that if we do this, not only do we send ripples into the Indian market, that bigger companies are now looking for smaller companies like us, we create a whole sort of an ecosystem where all of these larger companies would now, instead of VCs, these larger companies would come and start funding the smaller companies, and throughout the journey also teach these new age promoters how to grow. And I think that's what happened with us. And along with us, all of our competitors luckily got funded by all of these bigger guys. So if you see, Imami got into it, Wipro got into it, Godrej got into it, Colgate-Palmolive got into it, Matic was into it. So suddenly we changed the VC only game into a big four, big five only game.
Right, I remember. But what happens mostly with the startups, Candyman, when they get big checks, they definitely grow rapidly, but they lose the path of profitability. Right. In your case, I remember you never lost that path, right? You were laser focused on the growth as well as on the profitability. How did you maintain this balance? Because I remember, most of the startups, I've seen so many startups, either they are growing very rapidly and they lose the path of profitability, or if they maintain the path of profitability, they're not able to grow. But as a exceptional case, Ashutosh, how did you maintain the profitability as well as the growth of Beardo? That's a question.
So we were luckily unlucky in this way, because whatever money that we raised during our time, we never got to use it. We raised the money from VCats, we ended up FDing it basically into the bank. We raised some money after that from Marico, we FD'd that too. So we never really got to use the money because we were never losing money. Our ultimate focus was not to defocus ourselves from growth versus, we never wanted to pick either growth or profitability. We wanted to pick both, and we wanted to prove that both of it could be done together. Why does a startup have to pick one of the two? If you are growing the revenue, you can't grow the company. If you're growing the company faster, you have to make losses. That was the rule. That was the bottom line for everybody. And that's what we actually wanted to prove wrong to everybody. Then we wanted to show India, and we wanted to show the younger, promoters, younger founders, young idealizers, young dreamers, that it is not always necessary, because like you said earlier, right? All of the tech companies were really losing money. FMCG, there is a chance to make money, because unlike tech, here you are not just selling service or anything. You are selling a hardcore product. You decide what is the price you want to sell. You decide what is the kind of amount you want to spend versus what you are earning. You decide the whole structure. So everything is in your control. If you lose control, then there is no end to how much money you can lose. Even though you're getting growth, it is not justified. FMCG is not a market. Aaj paisa gavaya, so you lose today and you earn out of 5 years. That is never going to happen in FMCG. If you're not earning today at a certain scale, you will never be able to earn in the future at X number of scale you can get. If you are able to be very clear of the funda and the policy of the business that you want to do is growth with profitability, I think you will grow with profitability as much as you can. That's what happened to us. First year we are at 5 crores, second year 10 crores, third year 25 crores, fourth year 48 crores, fifth year exit, end of story. We were above 80 crore, 100 plus crore in gross revenue. So I think while we were doing that, we were also keeping in mind that even though there is a minimum profitability, we don't really want to unnecessarily spend just because we want to show a growth on our papers. We want to show real growth. We want to show with real profitability.
Setting up precedents in the startup industry that both profitability and rapid growth can be hand in hand. I'm sure there will be case studies written on you on this aspect. On the other hand, strategic investor, raising a strategic investment from a traditional corporate, large corporate, $5-6 billion company versus successfully exiting on the terms which you agreed day one. How was that journey of 3 years with Marico?
So I think it was incredible. So the first time that they called us over at their office, we were really nervous. So it was only me, Priyank, and one of our friends who was really advising us on the term sheet and on the SHA. So we three walk in our jeans, in our t-shirts, and everybody there is like suited up. They are corporates. They're right up there. All the names in that room. When we walked in, there were 10 people from Marico's team, who were trying to talk to us. But they were very, very warm. They were very welcoming. They were not at all intimidating. They were trying to help us along the way. So, but again, because they were a bigger corporate, they had to make sure that their interests were safe because they were listed. Any small mistakes could really hurt them than us, right? So we really understood that fact, and we really went through whatever they are saying. Ultimately, whatever you agree on the terms, you only come back to black and white when the business is not doing well. When you are confident on the business, when you're confident on your vision, when you're confident on yourself, it does not really matter what is written in the agreement. You just go and trust your partners, and you just go for it, push the paddle. Within those 3 years, after we agreed on all the terms, I brought those papers back. And my father, being a businessman, saw those papers and they said, I wouldn't sign these papers ever. This is not how you do an agreement. This is not a partnership. This is not how anybody would do it. I said, look at it in this way, right? If everything goes wrong, it is them who will lose a lot than what we would. And if we gain, it is not only them who is gaining, we will gain much more because we would have given the first exit in a very long time into the FMCG sector, creating not only a category, but also providing and proving that a category creation in a country like India is very possible in a very short time. So the positives versus the negatives were way, way better and way higher, right? Within these 3 years, we were really nervous that what if they start intervening? Because there are a lot of compliances. When you take over a bigger corporate, there are a lot of compliances, a lot of paperwork which would come along with it. But surprisingly, they were always there when we called them, right? They were always there to help us, and they never really asked us. They had a couple of board of directors onto the company, like you would know, and they always asked us a question: where do you need us? We had a board note prepared. Then they never really questioned what we are doing, but they were only trying to understand why we are doing what we are doing, right? It was not from a point of doubt, but it was from a point of curiosity, because that is what they want to bring into their culture as well. They want the younger employees, the younger teammates to, probably learn all of what they are doing plus all of what we were doing. So, and that is when we realized, and that was a moment of truth for us, is that this is the perfect partnership. We couldn't have asked for a better partner in this journey. While it was getting into the end, it was again, when a flight takes off is a little bumpy, and when the flight is about to land, it is supposed to be bumpy. The ride was really like we were flying to the sky. But while we were going to land, when we were very close, it was February end. We just wanted to, wrap everything up faster. We were ready for the exit. March came in and suddenly coronavirus hit, and then everything was in question. What would happen? Would they still buy out? Would this be a problem? Would business suffer? Everything. And they on a call with us said, look, you have built a brand which we wouldn't have dreamt that you would have been able to build at this scale. We are very much happy with what you have done, and we are here to support you. We are here to buy you out. You do not worry. You just keep on doing what you're doing, and we will try and finish this particular acquisition within the timeline that we have given you. And that's what really happened. So hats off to those guys and their support. And VCats, as always, really supported us till the end, right? We never had a problem with any of the VCats investor. We always spoke to a few, personally, Sunil Shetty being one of them, Apoorva Ranjan being one of them. So I think all in all, it was a really great experience. But yes, I think things don't really happen. You have to make them happen is something that we have learned. So don't wait for it. It's always, go for it wherever you get your chance. You just pitch and sell through.
So understanding each other pains and gains, with a strategic investor was a secret sauce, and they were quite supportive to it. With Marico, you almost killed the competition. I remember there were multiple brands backed by VCs, and you created a brand which was much ahead of any other male grooming brand in India. What did you did, and what support really worked for you? You would like to say one or two lines about that?
Sure, absolutely. I think one of the things was when Marico came on board, right? Other than anything aside, I think it was the brand name and the goodwill that came along with it, right? So now we had Sunil Shetty, now we had raised money from VCats, now we had Marico, and now we had a guaranteed exit provided we did everything right? Apart from that, I think one thing that really helped was our clarity on what we wanted to do offline. In India, there are millions of stores, right? So either you go to millions of stores or you create your own distribution channel. I think that was something which was really valued with Beardo. What we did was, we knew that men really go to a salon once at least every month. They may not really go to a grocery store or a pharmacy chain. And that's when we decided that, our offline channel will be salon only channel, where we would be reaching out to the most premium to the most lowest, amount of salons. And we did that. We became the #1 brand after L'Oreal to be out in, salon chains into the men's grooming. So we were in about 15,000 plus salons pan India at one time, and some more beauty stores. So I think that gave a personal touch, because what happens is men are really very loyal to whatever they use, right? You will not see you using or changing a perfume that you've been using for the last 3 or 4 or 5 years, or probably even a decade, right? So because there are not many options. Men normally have this in their nature where they only buy something when they are suggested by somebody. And if that suggester or if that person who is suggesting is your stylist, I think that really helps, that really gets into your head. Stylist ne bola hai, if your stylist has mentioned it, it must be a good product. I think that is the sort of injection that we did into this particular understanding of the consumers. And that's how we got into minds of people.
Creating an exit during pandemic time, right? And I'm sure your investors must be very happy and proud of you, because a lot of people, during this time, pandemic, they normally not able to stand with what they committed, right? So I'm sure they must be very. So how do the corporate Marico, which acquired you, how do they see exit or success of Beardo today?
Okay, so right, again, while we were landing, so while the acquisition was going to happen, the ride became bumpy because of the COVID situation. We did not reach to the the numbers that were in our minds. Though we had reached way higher numbers than those were mentioned in the agreement, but we were not able to reach our own goal. So we with ourselves were a little disappointed that we were not able to bring the right value for our investors. But in the end, I think everything was well. We were able to provide a multiple X exit to all our investors. Marico at the time really valued what we had created. So they were not only after the business, but it was a goodwill creation. It was a category creation. It was the brand positioning that we had done was much more valued, because the business can be created by anybody. It is about a brand creation, which had not happened in over a decade for men's grooming who were into beard grooming for a very long time, right? So we then were not only beard grooming, male grooming brand, but we were a full end-to-end, head-to-toe male grooming brand when we sold it out. And that's what Marigold really appreciated, was we were able to grow from just one category to hair, to head, to face, to body. And they really valued. And even today, we just had a word with one of the team members today, and they still say that all of the top management still gives example of Beardos when they want to grow. So because we were very uh, very strict with how we spent money. We were very watchful of what we did, when we did, and how we were opportunistic when it came to making sure that we reach the right amount of people at the right time, and using the right amount of money and not losing a lot of money at the same time. So I think they really. I think this is what I'd like to feel, is they really like us a lot in as founders, and they really like what we have done with Beardo as a brand. And now, because it is there, they treat it as their baby, and they are doing all that they can to thrive it even further.
You have now become a prolific angel investor after successfully exiting. Also, you have started investing in startups. What do you look at when you are investing now in the startups? 1-2 line.
This will be not right for me to answer, because I was just there last quarter, right? I was one of those guys. I think we look at probably a copy of ourselves into the founders, probably a few hints and things that we had back in the day when we were starting. We look at the founders and promoters majorly than what they are doing. If their vision is very clear, I don't really care if they are selling sand, if they are selling air, until unless they believe in what they are doing, until unless their vision is very clear, until unless they know what they are doing and where they are going, is what we look in for a company, rather than how big is the target area, what do the big data companies have to say, what are the bigger players doing. I think those are the questions that we should ask. We only ask, are you confident in what you're doing? If the answer is yes, I think we are on for it.
So now, what is the next big thing coming from you, and when? We are all ready to invest in you again.
For any founder, for any businessman, I think it is the masterpiece is yet to be painted. If you ask any artist, that would be the answer. So for us, it is similar. We are still looking into the masterpiece that we have yet to paint or to create as a category here in India. But we are working through it, and I think you will come to know very soon. All we could hope for is best wishes from you, and let's see if we can make it big.
Thank you, Ashutosh, for taking our time today and helping us understand your journey. It's a great learning for many of us, how we do such a difficult time. Also, you created such a big exit. I'm sure millions of entrepreneurs are now seeing you as an inspiration. And thank you very much for your time today. Thank you. I'd like to end here. Ravi, you please take it over. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sharma, and thank you so much, Ashutosh. I think it was a true delight listening to both of you. Such a wonderful story. Typically, across the world, be it the Silicon Valley or the Indian Silicon Valley, Bangalore, we hear about SaaS and mobile applications and technologies. While all of that is great, listening about a wonderful retail FMCG success story, which has, as Dr. Sharma said, it has been a true Indian story. I think that is phenomenal. We have quite a lot of questions. I would try and see if we can take some of them very quickly. The first question, we have this question coming in from Vivek. The question is, were you selling directly on e-commerce yourself or through other sellers? I think we can start with this question, Ashutosh.
So I think, so this answer is actually divided into two bits. What we wanted to do was, we really wanted to sell on on e-com directly so that we could get all the revenues. But at the same time, we were also trying to do something which was never done before, which was creating a brand, building a brand, creating communication language, trying to reach more people. So what we did here was we gave our distribution arm to one of the distributors and made them the sole distribution. So we could control the prices, we could control what would sell at what price points and where. At the same time, we focused ourselves in, you know, creating a brand. And I think that helped us a lot, because when you are smaller, you want to use your resources to the fullest, and you don't want to divide your attention in, you know, doing the day-to-day activity and, you know, micromanaging the business while you are creating a brand. So I think this is what we did in the very beginning.
Wonderful. We'll take the next question from Nilesh. Nilesh, I'm assuming trying to build a venture. The question is, what are the mistakes you have done in process of becoming an entrepreneur, which you may avoid if you walk the journey one more time? I think Dr. Sharma tried to ask the same one, but it would be great to listen your input on this.
I think we are here because we luckily made a lot lesser mistakes than somebody would. So I think I would like to say a few of the mistakes is to make sure that you don't scale too fast and too thin. Make sure that wherever you are scaling, you have a strong foothold in that region, in that area, and then expand. I think one of the things that we tried to do was to expand into offline much faster. So we had to pull back all the operations and then restart it. I think that was in the first 15 or 16 months of our journey. I think that was one of the biggest mistakes that we would say that we made. I think apart from that, it was a very secure calculation of everything that we are doing.
Wonderful, Ashutosh. We have, in fact, 5 questions from Mr. Abhigyan Patni. We'll try and see if we can take some of them. I'll start with the first question. What do you think were the habits or traits that helped you succeed? I think this question is more about you as an entrepreneur. So it would be great to listen to that.
I think 2 things here. We were trying to supervise every bit of operations that we could. So we had full frontal information of what was happening at each end. Second is to make sure that you take some time of the day and then go through what happened during that day and how can you make the next day better. I think these were the 2 major focus areas that we really looked into, and that really helped us.
Wonderful. Next question. Who's your role model? I think it's like a fireside 101. Yeah.
Okay, so there are a lot of role models to say, as per se, because there are particular role models, let's say from Steve Jobs, Bill Gates to Mukesh Ambani. Being my father, one of the role models, because he had made his fortune from you know, nothing. So I think he was the go-to guy for me whenever I had some problems.
Wonderful. Next one. What is the most important risk you have taken and why?
I think to shut down the operations, the ready business that we were doing back in 2015, and to switch overnight to creating a brand. I think we were earning a lot of money. Not only we were earning, but that was our bread and butter. So to stop that bread and butter business of yours and to make sure that, okay, tomorrow, whatever happens, this is what we are going to do, was one of the biggest risks that we would have taken back in the day.
Wonderful. We'll take the next question from Mr. Gopal. You said in your early days, you marketed digitally. The question is, what was your first digital marketing budget and how you managed that campaign?
Right. I think the first month our budget was about 1,500 rupees for the first month. Then we reversed it. What we did was, we decided how much did we want to sell that month. If we did sell that much of goods that month, how much money would we actually generate profit? That profit we started investing into the business from day one. And what happened was, at the end of the 30th day, we ended up selling double. So that's how we actually gained more and more profits, and we started investing more and more money.
Wonderful, Ashutosh. This is another question. This question is from me. As a startup in India, as you mentioned clearly, we cannot compare a Dollar Shave Club or something which works very well in one of the geographies. It might not work in the exact same format, and that is where Beardo has been very successful. My question to you, you have been very successful in getting ambassadors such as Sunil Shetty and Shahid Kapoor, and recently when Rocky was there after the KGF movie, which is a very, very popular movie, and in fact, he has a cult following because of the beard he keeps. It was a perfect combination of getting someone with whom your target audience can connect very easily. Because when you go in tier 4 and tier 5 cities in India, in small salons, if you have I have seen personally a Beardo hoardings outside a salon, and people start recognizing, okay, this is a very good brand. Now the question is, as a startup who's trying to build their business, and in the beginning, while they might not have access to a lot of capital, what can be another way to look at influencer marketing, or getting right set of people who can come and help a lot in elevating that brand in terms of the visibility quotient, Ashutosh?
So, okay, so it's not always important to have a face on the brand, but even if then you really want a face and a particular face on the brand, I think equity is one of the ways to go. I think there is something where you can either raise a venture debt and probably pay off the talent. You can always go the route where there are micro and mini influencers that you can use to your advantage. So you don't really have to go with a Shahid Kapoor all the time, or a Hrithik Roshan. You can always go for smaller faces in the very beginning, and then you can, as and when you grow and as and when you can afford, you can always go for the bigger faces.
That is wonderful. We'll take the next question. If you could go back in time when you started Beardo and tell yourself one thing, what would that be?
I think I don't know. I think I would just say keep on, just do what you've done, right? Don't change anything.
Wonderful. We have the next question from Mr. Deepan Dalal. Was IPO and own growth never an ambition for you?
Yeah. So IPO was always on the charts, because I think like I mentioned earlier, there are only two exits. One is IPO and the other is an acquisition. But I think IPO ensures something for the founders, is that you are locked in for a longer period of time than you would want to. Also, because it was an FMCG space, I think to identify and not have gone with a strategic partner and then probably decided to go with an IPO. There were so many things which could have gone wrong. Apart from that, the second thing is that IPO, the scalability of an IPO of such a brand could again be very limited. The third thing, I think one of the biggest points for us was to make sure that we had an exit, because exit in India was something which was never seen before very often. So I think there were these multiple factors of why not an IPO for Beardo.
Wonderful. We have the next question from Mr. Mandar Joshi. Was global expansion on cards at any point of time, or you were very clear that you wish to exit in 3 to 4 years after capturing Indian market?
No. So when we did an agreement with Marico, I think a 3-year exit was bound, and which was already agreed upon. But during that time, we had already expanded to UAE. We were into 150 plus salons in UAE. We were in few of Lulu, and we were about to enter Carrefour. Apart from that, we started expanding into New Zealand and a bit of Africa. And very recently, as we were going to exit, we were also setting up something for US. So it was always on the cards. I think if there would have been more time, I think in the next couple of years, you would have seen us through a few of the continents.
Wonderful. Ashutosh, after I think the phenomenal success of Beardo, we have seen some very interesting brands coming up for India. And as you said, some of the legacy brands might not were able to use that, that sassy and that millennial and now Gen X approach. What would be your input, if that's comfortable for you to share? 5 years down the line, how do you see the men grooming brand, men grooming sector growing? What are the opportunities available for Indian market?
Well, I think this is just started. Just imagine women's grooming and women's as a whole category into the wellness and personal care is about 1 lakh crore. Whereas when we started, I think it was less than 6,000 crores. So just imagine we are a fraction of where women's market is today. And even then, we say that women's market is still maturing. It is still not there. Then imagine where the men's market is, because men's have a very similar amount of buying power. Now that there are more companies, there are more products to offer. I think we are at the brink of start of something which is going to be a very big category in the next 3 to 5 years for sure.
Wonderful. We have the next question. Have you faced serious obstacles at any point of time in terms of logistics? For example, delivering the product to the client on time. How did you manage that? The second question is, yeah, please go ahead, and then we'll take the second one.
So I think not a lot, because I think we were very aligned on the logistics bit, and our warehousing and the logistics was very, very strong. We did face an issue when we ended up getting much more traffic than we were expecting, and when we did events, where we were expecting, let's say, 1 sale and we really ended up getting 6. I think that was the time period where it was the toughest for us to manage, where we were able to deliver but delay a little bit. I think apart from that, everything was aligned.
All right, wonderful. One more question. Again, I just thought this question because listening to you was very interesting, and also we speak to a lot of entrepreneurs. I think in 2020, when we saw a global lockdown, and now things are going to be a little different. What would be the top 3 changes which you would like to see in the logistics partner for e-commerce companies? Because e-commerce is going to grow every single day, and logistics is going to be a very important backbone. If you were to maybe build the best logistics company, what would be like?
I think one would be automation into the logistics. Right now, one of the bigger problems is a lot of things are happening which is manual operations, right? So a lot of I would say automations of reverse pickups, sending, storage, warehousing, all of those should be automated. Second, I think the response time. Right now, only few of the delivery partners do it within a 24 to a kind of a 48 period time frame, but most of them exceed those 3-4 days. I think that has to change. It has to be much faster. And I think the third thing would be price points. Price points is a lot of players are now switching from an offline to an online platform. And now that the logistical issues will grow much more than they were before because of the lot of traffic that they wouldn't be ready for, I think prices have to be in control, because if the prices keep on going higher and higher just because they have a limited supply ability and a lot more vendors coming in, I think that can break a lot of businesses in the very beginning.
That is wonderful. We'll take the next question. Technology has no boundaries, but consumer products are very specific to local regions. What's your message to global investors about India's consumer market?
Oh, that is absolutely not the case. I think technology really helped us a lot in its own way. We were able to divide India into parts for better operations, zonalizing it, making sure that deliveries were going faster, making sure that we knew real time every piece which was going out to every consumer, customer, B2B, B2C, whomsoever it may be. So it is not at all limited by anything. I think FMCG and tech really, if they can come together, that could be one of the best kind of partnerships which can grow the FMCG much faster than you have seen in the past decade.
Wonderful. I have a question for Dr. Sharma. Dr. Sharma, request you to kindly rejoin us.
Yeah,
Dr. Sharma, the question is, what did you see in Ashutosh and Priyank when you decided to fund the sector with no industry benchmark at that point of time, which becomes very, a difficult proposition? Did it not look like a risky proposition at that point of time?
I think, sir, apart from my beard, what else did you see?
So I like the founders. I was mesmerized by the very quick decision-making ability of the founders. That was the first instance I picked up. I talked to him late in the night, and next morning he was sitting and signing the term sheet. They were very clear in their thought process, what they want to build, how big their market is. They were very clear. I had very spotted questions with them, and they were very clear day one that they want to create a very big brand out of, in male grooming market. So that really attracted me towards this. And then when we dig deep, of course, the profitability of FMCG sector, male grooming was amazing. So these are one or two factors which triggered us to invest in them in the idea stage.
Wonderful, Dr. Sharma. We'll take maybe just a couple of more questions before we conclude the session. Mr. Ankit Gandhi would like to ask Ashutosh, how is the price point important in men's grooming products? As we know, men spend less on these things as compared to women.
I think when you're creating a brand and when you're creating a category specifically, you are the one who is setting a benchmark of what the product should be priced at. Rather than looking at what the bigger brands are doing, you have a little bit of leniency of how more or how less you want to price that product. But yes, in India, you also have to be careful of the income levels of people, of what your consumers and where you are selling to, and also the affordability, that you don't overshoot the price. So I think that openness we had because we were creating it, and we did experiment a little bit with the pricing and what was working, because we were not always on spot with pricing the products. So we had to do a lot of pilots, and we had to do a lot of on ground activities to learn what pricing are right for what products?
That is wonderful. I think that was wonderful. We can keep on going, and I'm sure we'll have more questions coming in. But we would like to conclude the session. I think, Dr. Sharma, it was wonderful, listening to your story as an investor and as a mentor. We all have seen how proud you are of all the portfolio companies. I think Beardo is a wonderful example. Ashutosh, once again, congratulations on behalf of Venture Catalyst 9 Unicorn family on building a wonderful success story, not only for, in terms of, we are proud to have you as part of the portfolio, but you have actually set wonderful benchmarks for millions of Indian entrepreneurs who are going to go and build their ventures going ahead. At this moment, I would like to take this opportunity to thank Dr. Ahmed Al-Zubairi, Mr. Haytham, Mr. Mandar Joshi from MENA region, Mr. Nayan Gala and Gaurav Jain from London, Mr. Pravesh Mehta from Ahmedabad, and all our partners from various cities across India. Your help and your contribution made this event a great success. I would also like to take this opportunity to thank all our guests who joined us from various time zones across the world. Thank you so much for joining in and making this event successful. I think as we are not in a physical format, we would like to take this opportunity to take a virtual picture together. So on 1, 2, 3, we can go ahead with the picture. 1, 2, and 3. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Ravi. Thank you, Apoorva sir, for being here, and thank you all the listeners for being here and taking out time. Really appreciate it. Thanks once again.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Ahmed.
Thank you so much, everyone. And I would like to thank everyone. Have a great weekend ahead.